Hey, kids, how would you like to hear this on the screen instead of the great show you came to see? That's what you sound like. Honest. Please cooperate and do your part in keeping this theater quiet so everyone, including you, can enjoy it. Now remember, lots of adults and kids, too, paid admission to enjoy the show. We must insist on absolute quiet.
Here's Milky, the marvelous milking cow. It's fun to milk her, gonna do it right now. She drinks the water when we pump her tail. She's raising her head, it's milking time now. Her pretend milk is a feeling the pail.
She drinks water and gets pretend milk.
Milky, the marvelous milking cow. Milky, the marvelous milking cow with pretend milk tablets. She's new from Kenner.
What did you think about the ride?
It was great. And apparently, I've never been on live television before, but apparently sometimes I don't watch the news because I'm a kid, and apparently Grandpa just gives me the remote after we watch the Powerball.
I'd like to direct my question to Mr. Allen, if I may. Mr. Allen, do you think that the Israelis should give back the land that they won from the Arabs?
Should the Israelis give back the land they won? No, I don't think so. I think that they should sell it back.
We have new information now also on the plane crash. KTVU has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. And the NTSB has confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 214 when it crashed.
Help me run the bank syncopade. Brian, your voice is shrilling through everybody. Carl, we can't hear Carl. We can hear Dennis, but we can't hear Mike, and we can hardly hear Al.
Okay, now wait a second. Me?
Can we hear a chord? Just a chord like we used to. When you used to sing clear records, okay? Let's go. Brian, I'm a genius too. Let's go, huh?
Boy, these conservatives are really something, aren't they? They're all in favor of the unborn. They will do anything for the unborn. But once you're born, you're on your own. Pro-life conservatives are obsessed with the fetus from conception to 9 months. After that, they don't want to know about you. They don't want to hear from you. No, nothing. No neonatal care, no daycare, no Head Start, no school lunch, no food stamps, no welfare, no nothing. If you're pre-born, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're fucked.
Well, you know, the comedy rule 3 is that you establish the premise, you fortify the premise, number 2, and then you subvert the premise. Comedy rules 1, 2, 3. So there you go. That's all you need to know about comedy, folks. You're done. See, well, no, 4 is too much. 4 is like, that's why Zeppo and Gummo, we never remember those guys. You aren't like right next to an air conditioner or something, are you? Because there's like a weird room tone.
No, I'm not.
Almost like a humming, like a real low level humming.
No.
Are you a robot? I forgot to ask you to check that box.
Not gonna check it whether I am or not.
I knew that's how you get them. Either that or else you say everything that I say is a lie except this. And that's when you see the smoke coming out of their ears.
The robot ears.
The robot ears, or whatever, the rivet holes or whatever they have, because they can't process that information. Or you could also say, what is the meaning of love? They have a hard time with that one too.
So do humans, so that's not really a fair question.
True, start with that one, because it's not it isn't the definitive.
Speaking of love, because it's so common, I binged the entirety of 3-point whatever seasons of A Handmaid's Tale over a 6-day span.
Ah, yes. How is it?
Good.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Good.
Is it scary? I mean, you finished it just in time for the real thing, apparently.
Well, it's interesting. I had not read the book. You kind of get an idea of what it's about, but I didn't realize it was supposed to be a today kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Necessarily, I didn't know if it was historical or whatever, so I didn't get Gilead and the whole thing. It's weird, and it makes you wonder if you know some people who might think that that's an okay way to do things.
Well, my understanding is that the particular sect that Margaret Atwood based the story on, the book on, is not exactly the same sect, but it's like as close to. They only differ by a little sliver. The one that Amy Coathanger Barrett belongs to.
Oh.
Yeah, so it isn't a stretch of the imagination to lump her in with that. Yeah, she belongs to not Gilead, but I think there's something that's very, very similar to it. So West Coast, East Coast type of thing.
Fun.
Yeah. Speaking of which, the Supreme Court has agreed to basically dismantle Roe versus Wade.
Yes, isn't that something?
Yeah, the series, it takes place right now, right?
Yes, it's at current times.
Okay.
Yeah, I was having to do some other stuff at the same time, so I didn't get to stay as glued to the television as I would have liked. But yeah, it's very much of current times, and Chicago was the battleground. They were still referred to as Chicago at the time, and that's where the big battle was taking place. The Gilead people were trying to take over. They wanted to be, well, you know the whole story.
Well, maybe somebody out there doesn't.
Oh.
I don't either, but I just pretend to. Yeah, of course, Mary, I know this, but, others don't. So please let them know.
For them.
For them.
Enlighten them. Well, the birth rate has declined, and so these religious people have decided that the purpose of women is simply to repopulate the world, and so they strip them of their rights, turn them into possessions. I mean, their names, if this were happening and you had one of these gals, they would be called of Lee. So you have of Joseph, of Fred, of William.
But you're saying there's a downside too?
Somehow I chose you as one of the people who would think it was a good idea.
Well,
actually
we can workshop it. I mean, I'm not married to it, but
no, there isn't a chance in hell.
I'm not repeatedly married to it. Now, do they do polygamy too, or is that not a?
No.
The women are all vessels for birthing,
and it's one at a time.
Okay. And
they have a thing called, I think they just call it the ceremony. That at a particular time, when odds are better, the wife sits on the bed, and the handmaid kind of sits between her legs and has her arm up, and the wife holds her hands. And the handmaid, her legs are just basically off the end of the bed. The man just walks in. He still just undoes, frees Willie, stands there, does a quick thing, calls it a day, and walks out of the room. And then once that handmaid, if the handmaid produces a child for that family, then she is sent off on another assignment. It's horrific.
Wow.
Then the people who take care of the house or the children, somebody's called Marthas. But anybody, I think the Marthas are the ones who take care of the children. Okay. But everybody in the house, every woman in the house is registered and is a possession.
By the head of the household, I guess, right?
Well, and the wives don't have any say.
Right. Now, I would imagine at some point they would age out of the system, and then what, do they just become the caretakers, or?
I don't know if that's when they get sent to the colonies, or if they go to the colonies when they just misbehave. There's a whole thing, and it's all pretty wretched. The colonies is where they just basically work them to death.
Okay.
No fun to be had there.
Scientology has what they call the brig, right? Same thing?
They have something.
Some nautical term, because he was into the whole nautical term for everything.
Yeah, Scientology.
Speaking of which, Elizabeth Moss, star of the Handmaid's Tale series, is a Scientologist.
No.
And how does she go to set every day? How does she embody that character and not make the connection? I don't know.
Well, how does Scientology allow their people to be part of productions that involve such immoral things?
Well, as long they don't consider anything immoral that isn't counter to Scientology. She could not do, for instance, a project that was critical of Scientology. That would be wrong. She would not be allowed to do that. She would not.
So she and Leah Remini probably aren't going to be starring in anything together soon?
Probably not. I think you're in or you're out. That goes for the whole family, too. The family is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you make a break with the family.
I've watched Leah Remini's whole show, and it's fascinating, I have to say.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched the... Well, maybe I did. Is it more than one season? I think I watched one season.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There are quite
Then
a few seasons.
That's all I've seen is the first season. And then, of course, the movie that preceded that called Going Clear. Which
You know what? We talked about this.
We did, but,
But it's so exciting.
It's like last week on my list of topics, which we never got around to, was Israel. And lucky for us, Israel's still in the news. We could talk about him this week, too. So
I don't know if it's lucky with everything going on.
I don't know what it's genocide. The insanity for me is that one isn't even allowed to discuss it as a totalitarian government situation committing genocide against its people without being accused of being anti-Semitic. Automatically, you are anti-Semitic if you're anti-Zionist. That's the frustrating thing.
Who's making this rule?
Well, anybody who speaks out publicly will instantly be called anti-Semitic. I mean, a few people off the top of my head, Roger Waters of Pink Floyd made some statements several years ago critical of Israel's government. Basically, stop bombing Palestinian children.
The audacity.
Exactly. And, I mean, it's awful, awful, awful that the United States is propping them up. I mean, this would have been the golden opportunity for Joe Biden to say, hey, stop committing genocide. We won't give you this $735 billion in weapons if you keep doing this. But instead, just wrote the check.
He's going that direction.
You think? I mean, has he said
Give
anything
him a minute.
critical? Has he said anything critical yet?
He's a lot of, but the thing is, a lot of that stuff, and that's what a lot of people say, has to be said in private, and you cannot repeat everything that you say to other world leaders. You just can't.
We have to just be honest, and I mean, the president does, regardless of what is in his heart. And I do believe, as I've said before, Joe Biden is a good man. I do believe in his heart he is a good man. No problem with that. But the position that he's been hired to do
legitimately voted in.
Well, I think there's an asterisk next to it. I'm not too.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, the thing is, he's beholden to certain interests. That's how it works. He is beholden to interests, and one of those interests is Israel. And if everybody would just be honest about it and say, well, of course he can't badmouth them for whatever reason. It's just a similar thing with the Saudi Arabian government. We know that they funded the 9/11 bombings. We know that. Why are there no repercussions? Why do they not even get badmouthed? We know that the Khashoggi thing, can't blame that on Biden because Khashoggi, can't blame that on Biden because he wasn't president at the time. We know that why that was covered up because Trump was probably involved in it anyway. And again, this is a humor program.
Jared is good buddies with the prince.
Right, but I think it even goes deeper than that. I think that had Biden been in, I think that our beholdens, that's not really a word, we are beholden to Saudi Arabia in ways that the citizens will never know and probably shouldn't know. There are reasons they're untouchable. So had that happened under Biden's watch, I don't think it would have been a lot different in his handling.
I do.
I think he might have said things. I don't think there would have been any sanctions against Saudi Arabia.
I think something would have been done.
Okay.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
We have little faith.
I've got plenty of faith. It just goes in different directions, finds odd nooks and crannies to crawl into.
Oh, and how exciting is it that criminal charges now on Trump and his organization? It's gone from civil to criminal.
That is, it should be exciting. Mr. Little Faith here is, show me the charges.
Oh, geez.
Show me the charges, and then I'll get excited. Every time I get excited, it's because of a headline that says may or could or something. Okay, well, let's see it. Let's see those charges, baby. And then it's like Bigfoot. Show me the body. Show me the body. Not a blurry photo. Blurry photos don't work anymore. They worked in the beginning. We're tired of them now. Need that body. Or an arm. Just give me an arm. That's fine.
So basically you want him dismembered.
I'm still talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah, I know.
Well, actually, either way kind of works for me. But no, I don't want to see any big feet harmed in any way. But
Well, if you want to see a hand or an arm, you want him dismembered.
it could be attached.
They are saying that there has to be, and not just evidence, but sufficient evidence to have actually brought criminal charges. And of course, Prince Whiny Pants. It's political. It's just the Democrats wanting to get rid of. Well, anybody who doesn't want to get rid of you is an idiot. But
Witch hunt.
oh yeah, poor me. They're after me.
I guess we should assume that this has something to do with the fact that Rudy Giuliani's office and home were raided, right? I mean, were they looking for specific evidence, and now?
It's not where they got it, but it's the two working together.
Just to clarify this came out as an anonymous report, or because criminal charges have not been filed yet. They announced that
SDNY and whoever else. No, they've got, I would say, wait, because it's probably just around the corner. They didn't need to notify them that they were doing this, but they did. So Weisselberg should be panicking. Their finance guy who has actually been there since it was his dad, when somebody was actually making money. Yep, there should be a lot of people panicking. And I can't wait. I mean, honestly, when I heard that last night, I got giddy.
Yeah, I want to, I keep getting burned, and every time I get giddy, it's somebody saying, well, criminal charges are just around the corner. Like, okay, well, tell me when we get to the corner. Otherwise, I don't know.
But it's not pundits saying it anymore. It's the actual people saying, yep, we're working together.
You know who should be a little bit anxious today is Matt Gaetz, because Joel Greenberg, it turns out, has pleaded guilty. Pleaded guilty or pled guilty? I always get that wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe I get it right, and I think I got it wrong. Is it pled or pleaded?
Pled guilty.
Pled. See, it sounds like it should be pled, but I always read it as pleaded, and I think, shouldn't it be pled?
Why'd you just ask me?
Because I thought you might know. Because if you knew one way or the other, if you thought the opposite, I don't know, Mary. I just wanted to make conversation, I guess.
No. You just wanted to trade cards, because then you're like, yeah, it's that. Well, I always read it's this. Well, okay then.
Well, no, I do see pleaded sometimes, and that doesn't seem right. Pleaded doesn't seem right. But there must be a reason to use pleaded and not pled certain times. I just don't know. Anyway, so Joel Greenberg, the accomplice partner of Matt Gaetz, allegedly in sex trafficking, has pleaded guilty to 6 charges. Originally, he had 33 charges. And they knocked him down because he has given them, quote, full and ongoing cooperation.
See,
so, yeah.
I don't think he should get away with that much, though. I think he's going to get away with far too much.
Well, it could be the 6 charges are bigger than the other charges, because, I mean, they probably had him on a few charges. They always throw as many charges as they want to because they can bargain with them, It's like, we'll get rid of these if you do this. And,
yeah, but to go from 33 to 6.
Right. Well, hopefully he'll be doing time. Although, yeah, I mean, I think we want him to do time. But if he gives up Gaetz, and if it eventually ends up giving up Trump, I don't know, maybe it's, you hate to see, like, mafia hit guys get away with it, but if they rat on and, brings the whole thing down, then it's like, maybe that's the price you got to pay. I don't know. Whatever. He just, and who knows? Maybe he'll get his comeuppance on the streets where you're supposed to get your comeuppance first. But anyway, Matty Gaetz there is probably somebody flew a plane over somewhere where he was, and it said Matt Gaetz TikTok. Yeah, that's nice. TikTok.
I'm surprised Marjorie Taylor Greene was probably with him. I'm surprised she didn't whip out her gun. Shoot the plane down. She's a good American. She's a patriot.
She's not the shooter. Isn't that Bobert? Isn't she the
Oh, they both are.
gun? They're both gun people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Robert straps hers on when she goes and does her little tops. She looks like an idiot.
And Green is the one who
Harasses teenagers who were survivors of a school shooting.
Right. I was yeah. And allegedly sleeps with everybody at the gym.
Ew.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything's gross about those people.
I'm sorry, but ew. I just think she's just I'm gonna say it, I think she's an ugly little disgusting thing.
She really is, and I wonder, is it a chicken and egg type of thing? I mean, if she was a kind-hearted person, and we saw her on TV, would we think of her as ugly?
Yes.
Or, I mean, her personality definitely helps to sell the ugliness, right? So,
I don't know.
there's objective, there's, I don't know, there's some...
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder kind of thing.
For the most part, I think there's parameters that pretty much everybody can agree on. Way at the edges there. But, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, if she was a nice person, if she really was, if she was like head of a CDC or something and telling us, pleading with us to be sane, maybe we wouldn't think she was attractive, but I mean, maybe pretty isn't a barrier she's going to ever jump, but we wouldn't think, she's just, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to see all the bitch that I do right now, and yes, I'm sure a fair portion of it is their behavior, their choices, which does make a person really ugly.
It does. Well, that's what I mean. Maybe her ugliness on the inside has made, she's created this physicality of ugliness by being, it's like the permanent frown face, people who just don't smile. And then suddenly you're like, wow, you just never smiled. That's all your mouth can do. So maybe it's like,
what the hell's wrong with your face? Are you okay? What do you mean? Did you smile?
Should have smiled. See, all those strangers, all those construction workers that you passed who said, hey, baby, why don't you smile? See?
They were trying to tell you something.
Right, who's the hero now?
Yeah. And this section is called How to Be a Biatch 101.
I think we passed 101. Well, now, Bigfoot may or may not be real, but we know that UFOs are real now.
Yeah.
Right? Did you see the 60 Minutes piece?
I did not.
Yeah, this is another thing I was very excited about because all the headlines were the Pentagon has finally admitted that UFOs are real and that there's craft with technology that's 1,000 years in the future, blah, blah, and all these grand statements. And then I watched the story, and it's kind of the same story we've been hearing for years. A couple of people, retired Air Force generals, are saying, oh yeah, the Air Force knows all about this, happens every day. That's basically the story. So, again, it's like, show me. And here's the thing there, too. It's like, we used to get photographs. Now that everybody has a camera that's in their phone that's capable of shooting things off of the moon, suddenly we can't get photographs of UFOs anymore. And so they changed the narrative faster than the speed of light capabilities, and that's why they always seem to get away before we take pictures of them.
I haven't heard that.
Oh, no? Yeah, that's
Nope.
That's the new thing. So it's the only thing that makes any sense. What do you think about UFOs, Mayor? Or actually, they're called UAPs now, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. Yeah. I'm going to say UFOs from now on.
I'm digging that.
You like UAPs?
Yeah, why not?
But I mean, technically,
Nothing
the unidentified part is the crucial part because yes, unidentified flying objects are real. We just have not there's a big jump between the unidentified part and their alien spacecraft from another world. That's the jump in that you kind of have to make without evidence. But I don't know.
Well,
What do you think? What do you think about
you just have to believe.
Yeah,
Where did Stonehenge? How did that happen? and all of those other things that are just perfectly measured out. Perfect circles, perfect. When humans supposedly did not have the tools, the technology to produce something like that. So what would your explanation be?
Not having studied Stonehenge, but I do have a bit of a knowledge of remember Eric von Daniken? He wrote Chariots of the Gods in the 70s, and it became a huge thing. Tons of books and movies, and the premise was that aliens from other worlds had come down and nudged human civilization, right? So they kind of interfered, and they created the pyramids and all these things. And it turns out that it's kind of the whole premise was kind of based on a racist notion to start with.
Well, that's not cool.
Right, which was that the Mayans and the Incas weren't developed, weren't intelligent enough to do this by themselves. Well, of course they were. They had math, they had measurements. They knew how to. I mean, the thing about the pyramids is it took them centuries. They also had slaves. I mean, that's the X factor right there. You got X number of slaves, and basically 10, 11 lifetimes. Yeah, you can do pyramids.
You can do a lot of stuff.
You got that spirit, And slaves. Did I mention slaves? Because that's the important.
You did.
Crucial. Yeah. If you don't have slaves, it'll take you forever. But yeah,
that helps out.
But no, I was really into. I devoured those Eric von Daniken Chariots of the Gods, and then those Gold of the Gods. You remember these? Outer Space Connection.
I remember Chariots of the Gods, but I did not read it.
Here's a breaking news story, I think, or at least it's breaking to me. Demi Lovato has come out as non-binary, which I think means she doesn't use the metric system. So,
yes,
good for them. I hope they are happy, and I'm glad that they are not on heroin anymore. They. Sorry, I left that part out. Their pronouns are they and them.
Well, she was on TV. There was a whole show, I don't know, a month or two ago? Who keeps track of time?
No. The Swiss.
Well, that's because that's their thing.
You asked.
Everybody has to have a thing.
Uh-huh.
And she was one of the people speaking on there and kind of talking about how she came out as queer.
Okay.
Finally, and what a big deal that it was, and then how much happier she was just saying, this is who I am, and so that was that.
So now I guess this is an extra step. So she was queer, and now she's non-binary. Well, what I don't get about this whole thing is, why is it Demi Lovato and Demi Moore?
Well, it used to be Demi Moore.
No, it's never been Demi Moore. Everybody says Demi Moore, but it's Demi. She would always correct you. Demi. It's Demi Moore.
Oh.
So this whole thing doesn't make any sense.
I wasn't aware of all of that.
Well, that's what I'm here for. To shine a light into an otherwise dark
world.
or something.
Dark world.
Speaking of which, it is actually a slightly darker world than it was before, because I don't know if you are aware of this, but we just lost the great actor Charles Grodin.
I did not know.
Yeah. This one really bums me out because he's in King Kong, which of course I've made no mistake that
We're not going down that path again.
I love that movie. He's in The Heartbreak Kid, which is wonderful. Heaven Can Wait, which is not only my favorite romantic comedy of all time, it's probably my favorite football movie of all time, and he's fantastic in that.
What happened?
Well, he was aged. It was natural causes. I think he was always a little older than we thought. When he was, most of us, I think, know him. Most of us of our age, anyway, know him from The Tonight Show. He would do these legendary performances, these appearances on The Tonight Show, and it was a running gag where he was like, well, I don't want to go on and just sell my movie or whatever. It should be a performance piece because I'm here and I should be performing. So he had this running bit that he developed where he was like at odds. He was always at odds with Johnny Carson, who was like the nicest guy you could couldn't be at odds with, but for some reason Grodin just he just rubbed Grodin the wrong way as a bit. But he kept that up through, I don't know how many performances, 50, 60 performances on that show. And every one of them is, if you watch them on YouTube, every one of them is just hilarious. And he gets in the bit and he stays in the bit. That never breaks. Never breaks. And you know what else he was great in, and I'm not seeing mention of this as much, is The Great Muppet Caper. Now, for my money,
Well,
yes. Now we're talking, right? Do you remember The Great Muppet Caper? The Muppet movie was the first one, and no question that's a masterpiece. But for my money, the second one, Great Muppet Caper, is the best one and is the first and last word in Muppets. And I think I've talked about my feelings of the Muppets. When Jim Henson died and Frank Oz left, that really, to me, was the end of the Muppets, and everything after that's a tribute band. So in The Great Muppet Caper, you see them at the height of their powers. And I just watched it today again. It was like a Marx Brothers movie. It's written the same way. The humor is off the wall and anarchic, and they break the fourth wall, and it's a little bit, I don't want to say
It stars Grover.
No, it's not great. It's the Muppet Show cast. So it's Kermit, Fozzie, Miss Piggy. They're the main ones. None of the Sesame Street ones are there, except for Rolf, I guess, would be considered. Rolf actually predates Sesame Street.
Then it's not that great.
But well, there's more there than what about Gonzo? I mean, Gonzo
the Great.
Gonzo the Great is my second favorite Muppet of all time, and we both know who my first favorite is. And I think there's a lot of Grover. There's a lot of similarities between Grover and Gonzo, I think. But Charles Grodin is in the movie, and he is fantastic. He doesn't even show up until 50 minutes into the movie, and he steals it. Yeah, it's wonderful. And actually, you know what? I have a Charles Grodin story, as it turns out. Years ago, when I was working for King World. King World is two guys, the King brothers. They basically inherited the Little Rascals, the Our Gang. Okay. So they never had to work a day in their life. Then, through King World, they got so lucky in the early days of syndication of game shows, and they still own the syndicated rights to Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and a little show called Oprah. So, so these guys were billionaires before they were 40. Anyway, I was working for these guys, and it hadn't been announced yet, but it was already a rumor in the trades that Charles Grodin was going to do a show for King World, a talk show, like a daytime talk thing. And it was true. We were doing it. We were not allowed to announce it, but I was involved in setting up offices and stuff like that. And we were probably a few weeks away from actually starting, but I was pretty excited because it's Charles Grodin. I really love this guy. So one day he happened to stop by, and so I showed him around. I showed him the offices and everything. And by the way, he said, "Call me Chuck." So I'm going to call him Chuck from now on because I have permission. Thank you. And I showed him around to the offices and, blah, blah, blah. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is the guy from King Kong. This is the guy from Midnight Run. This is the guy from Great Muppet Caper. But I'm going to be working with him. I'll get all these stories later, just, as they come about naturally. We'll be sitting in the commissary and he'll say, and then I was in King Kong and this happened. It's like, just play it cool. So within the week, a couple of days later, I'm getting on the train to go to work, grab the newspaper, and there's a story. Charles Grodin has signed with CNBC for talk show. He pulled the rug out from under King World. No announcement. They sued him. I don't know if they won. They didn't need to because, as I said, these guys are billionaires. But it was, I don't know what the circumstances were. I don't know why he did it, but he was not a welcome name at King World for a long time after that. And then his show on CNBC was actually pretty good. I don't know if you remember that. It was like a Larry King type of show, politics and current events. No. It ran for years. Yeah. His character was kind of I think he was liberal, but he was kind of cantankerous. So he would be contrarian sometimes. And I think he had a liberal slant to him, but I was so disappointed because I was really looking forward to working with him every day. And then boom. Oh, well.
The rug was pulled out from under your feet.
Exactly. But not from over his head. Yeah. See, nobody thought about Lee in this scenario. Nobody thought, how will this affect Lee if I sign at CNBC, you know? I'm sure I was like way down on his list of priorities. And that makes me kind of sad.
It's a cruel world sometimes.
It is. It's a cruel business, the business we call show.
Business.
No, just show. The business we call show. See,
Yeah.
you just do the business part in your head.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's how they're rolling with it these days.
We actually shot, or I shouldn't say we, because I wasn't involved in the actual pilot, but they shot a pilot. They might have shot 2 episodes, actually, of the Charles Grodin Show, which never aired, of course. Sits in the vault. I wish now that I had made copies when I was there and had my fingers in the vault, because now it'll never, ever be seen by the public. But he did a talk.
Maybe it will now.
I mean, it would take somebody like me being on the inside. And I remember that Art Garfunkel was his guest for the first episode, and it went horribly. I remember seeing Art Garfunkel. I don't know if he has a condition or what. If it was just a perfect storm of it being too hot and bright on the set and him wearing the wrong type of fibers, but he had pit stains that were dark and took up probably a third of his body. But
yeah, that sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah, it didn't look so good either, and I don't know. That wasn't the reason they scrapped the pilot, but that probably didn't help either. Yeah, I don't know if.
I don't doubt they would scrap a whole show for that reason. You would hope.
Right. Well, they scrapped it because he jumped ship.
Well, I know you said scrap that episode though.
Yeah. Well, they did. I think that they'd already decided not to use that as the pilot. You know what I mean? I think for whatever reasons that was like a test pilot, maybe to get somebody in. I don't know why, but it was not going to be seen at all. Which just reminded me, there's another thing that the public would love to see, or at least I would love to see, that probably will never see the light of day, is that Michael Moore. Remember Michael Moore of Roger and Me and all the documentaries? Yeah. Well, he had a TV show called TV Nation, and then after that, he was going to do a talk show. I forget for what station or whether it's syndicated or whatever, but it was going to be a talk show, like a one-on-one interview show. And his first episode, he actually landed O.J. Simpson, and this was after the trial. And this was it was the first, and I think pretty much the only interview that O.J. did ever. And Michael Moore, whom I generally agree with his stance on things, and I don't know if he's changed his stance on this, but at the time he was convinced that O.J. was innocent, and it came so far out of left field that I was like, what? Yeah, that was the premise. I think that's probably the only premise he could get O.J. onto his show in the first place, would be, to be sympathetic. Oh, I'd love to see that, because it was right after the trial, like weeks after the trial.
I'd be okay without anything O.J. Simpson speaking.
Yeah, I could see that. I was working at King World all during the trial, and it was, I mean, you want to get jaded on TV news, that's the way to do it, because it was, we talk about like dog chasing its tail. There literally was no story going on from day to day. The story of the daily trial could be summed up in a 30-second soundbite. It really could be. So-and-so testified today. But instead, it's 24/7 coverage. So all this stuff just has to be manufactured. So they'll find some taxi driver who picked up Nicole one time, something or other, and they'll pay them to do a story. Because it's like a fireplace. You got to keep throwing the wood in. You can't let that fire go out for a second. And the money they throw at it was just sickening too. Just flying people all over the place for nothing, for absolutely. And this wasn't even really news. This was Inside Edition. Is what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's still considered journalism, I guess. I mean, the people who do it are considered journalists, and they do cover news stories. So it's news, but it's packaged. Yeah, I don't know. But it really jaded me on the whole system and the whole business, I should say.
His whole story of how he came from nothing and became O.J. Simpson. Think about it. He was in movies. He was in commercials. He was everywhere. He was O.J. Simpson. And now all of a sudden he's a murderer, and he did it.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger than life personality. Everything was just bigger than life.
Well, one thing that struck me about that I mean, to me, it could be that it coincided with me working in that specific field at that moment. So it could have been before that too. But it seemed to me that this is when the whole thing began of the media creating a story, because this wasn't the crime of the century. It wasn't a crime of the century at all. This was a murder. I mean, this was a domestic murder. Horrible, horrible for all the families involved. But that's all it was. It was one man killed two people, and one of them was his ex-wife. That happens in America all the time, unfortunately. But that's not a story. But they had to create a... And O.J., to be honest, I mean, I enjoyed him in movies. I enjoyed Capricorn 1, and I enjoyed, the Naked Gun movies. He's pretty funny, but he wasn't a huge star by any means. He was just, that football guy who happens to be in movies.
But he was a football star.
He was a star, absolutely. I mean, Michael Jordan's a star. If Michael Jordan kills his wife tomorrow, it isn't the crime of the century, is what I'm saying. It's horrible for all those involved, but it has nothing to do with society.
The sheer brutality of it, I think, was so shocking to people.
O.J. wrote a book,
yes.
which got blocked. But before it was blocked, he recorded an audio version of it, which I used to have the cassette version of it because I worked at a bookstore.
If I had done it?
If I did it, yeah. If I did it. And
did it, okay.
Yeah, it's not even grammatically correct. If I did it, here's how I would do it. And he basically
told on himself.
Yeah, he describes the whole scenario. He does create another person, though. He creates an imaginary person who was with him at the time. And people who, like psychologists who have dissected that, say, well, yeah, it makes sense that he would be disassociating himself because at that moment he can't, even though he did commit these horrible, horrible crimes, there's a part of his brain that can't accept that. It's like a defense mechanism. So he created this character who it's funny because in the narrative, this character kind of comes and goes in the story. It's like he's there, then he's like you're reading some really poorly written story, and they have 4 characters, but then they kind of forget about these 2 characters for the longest time, and they're just concentrating on the other 2. And you're like, well, wait a second, weren't there 4 people in this room before?
Huh.
Wouldn't these other people be?
Where'd the other 2 go?
It's poor writing on OJ's part.
Well, he wasn't known for being a writer.
He wasn't. No.
Wasn't his claim to fame.
Yeah.
But I think, I do, if you were a member of either of the families and the fact that he got away with it, your life is never the same.
Oh, I'm sure. No.
Never.
And again, no, of course. And yeah, it was just so sick watching all these people associate themselves with it, for their 15 minutes of fame, which wasn't even that because, now with like the 24/7 news cycle, 15 minutes is nothing. 15 minutes is like sustained fame at this point.
Yes.
But somebody who had dated OJ once would get all dolled up and come on. And it's, come on.
They done for anything.
You got nothing to add to the story. But it's all this symbiotic relationship of, they're all feeding off each other, and people want to come on TV because they want to be on TV, and the people who, it's just sick. It's all sickness.
So it's raining a lot here.
Really?
And raining and raining and raining. And that's one of the reasons my allergies are so bad is because it took, and I'm not exaggerating, 2 hours to mow the lawn today. 2 hours. For any of you who mow lawns, you'll get it when it had been too wet and throughout the day to be able to mow it all. The grass just never dried enough not to clog up and mess up the lawnmower. So there were spots, and again, non-exaggeration, 8 to 10 inches long.
Wow.
So you could only take a path that was a third to half the width of the lawnmower. Make one pass across and back, which isn't very far, and would have to dump the back. And of course, it's entirely too long just to mulch. Ridiculous, cruel, brutal stuff. I'm telling you.
Do you use a riding?
No.
Use a riding lawnmower? No.
Of course, it's not. The lawn's not. Plus, it's there's a lot of it that's on an incline. That would be dangerous. That would be very dangerous.
That'd be fun. Don't tell the kids it's dangerous because I just want to try it.
No, normally I can be done with the whole thing. Yeah, that's the trick. I can be done with front, back, sides in half an hour. If I'm really powering through. Yeah. Good times. I'm telling you, people, good times.
Do they still make those old time lawnmowers that are
The hand
manual?
push?
Yeah, they just
I
have a
believe so.
blade that flips around as you push it.
My brother used to use one of those at his first house out on the coast. And it had a big backyard, but he enjoyed doing it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sometimes technology isn't. Sometimes the old ways are better. You know?
Yeah.
Spears. All we need is spears, really. Give a man a spear.
I'm sorry, give what?
I was gonna say give a man, because a woman would be like, a woman would probably use it on the man.
Yes.
Who just made that remark.
Yes, she probably would. And you are the same person who, earlier when we were trying to figure out, because internet issues, blah, 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 we were talking about food and not eating much, or I don't even remember how it went. And for all of you out there, Lee's comment was something about how it would make it easier for his wife to cook or to prepare dinner. Oh, okay. Sexist, anybody?
Well,
yeah, that's right. Put the little woman in the
yeah.
put the little woman in the kitchen. Get her pretty little apron and some kitten heels. Oh,
no.
make sure she's got her dress.
Women have functions in other rooms besides the kitchen. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, they need to clean the bathrooms as well. Don't forget to vacuum and dust, ladies.
They have functions in bedrooms, every room in the house, basically.
Yeah, someone's got to change the linens.
Right. Speaking of linens, guess what I did? I bought. Wait, no, go ahead and guess.
You bought new linens.
Oh man, I told you this already.
No, but you just kind of
curtains.
led into it. So
curtains, actually, linens would be anything that's made of linen, right?
Bed linens, sheets.
Because I went to a linen store. The store actually says linens in its name, but it's only curtains, I think.
That's weird. No, usually it's bed linens, and a lot of times because I'm fancy, use that term.
Maybe they had bed stuff too, like sheets and blankets, right? So that would be beds and
sheets.
I don't know.
Yeah, remember curtains, there are different window treatments, so depending upon what you're looking for.
Well, I'm not looking anymore because I found them. So I am looking for a smaller one from my bathroom. So, and then I'm ready to renovating the kitchen. Bedroom's done. So I'm pretty excited. The living room's pretty much done. I mean, living room's done. Bedroom doesn't have a bed in it yet, so it's not like that. It's ready for. I don't think I showed you the before of the bedroom because I did a significant amount of work on one of the windows. There's two windows. Underneath the window, I guess there had been like a leak of water, so the wood was all like gnarly and stuff. I had to strip that, use putty and all the crooks and nannies, and paint it, and it looks like the day it was born. It's so amazing, yeah. Without a before photo, it really, it's just kind of a yawn. You're like, oh, okay. Looks good.
Oh.
Yeah.
There is kind of that thing if, your own home, of course you're much more excited about than a lot of other people are going to be.
True, but I mean, I think anyone can appreciate a project. If you say, oh, look, here's what it used to look like, and here's what it looks like now, no matter what it was.
Oh,
and
not me. I don't like projects.
Wow. No, not you. You like to project.
Excuse me?
Oh, sorry, that was me. That's me. I'm the one who projects. I'm sorry. It's always the other person who's defensive, isn't it? Isn't that odd?
What is it? I remember an old saying, the first to accuse is the first to do. So if someone ever accuses you of cheating, lying, stealing, odds are they probably have done all of the above.
Right. It's a preemptive move. Because then you're stuck when you call them on the crime of which they're actually guilty of, then they say, oh, you're just saying that because I said it. Right? You're only accusing me because I accused you.
Oh.
It works, trust me.
Oh, okay.
Works for the Republicans.
Ugh. Wait a minute. Did you just say work and Republican in the same sentence? Oxymoron. What are you going to say next? That they're patriots into Americans?
I don't know. What's the next word they're going to subvert? What haven't they taken yet? Love? Are they going to take love now? Are we not going to be able to use that word in its proper context?
Ew.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was rhetorical.
Yeah. I'm so disgusted that even when their constituencies support something, if a Democrat came up with the idea, or even an independent, heaven forbid, we can't do that. Nope, 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 nope. And the people are clamoring, saying, but this is something we really want. We need this. This will be good for us. Nope, 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 can do, Lobo. Oh, sorry. That is a cute statement from my son originally. Don't associate that ever with Republicans, please. I just sullied it.
Oh.
Sullied. I need to go wash my mouth out with soap, but I'll be right back.
Republicans ruin everything, don't they?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Today's. See, and they're not even Republicans. By the true definition, and anything that the Republican Party was before, they're not.
Well, I think they're not conservative. I think they're Republicans because the Republican Party has embraced them, right? Hasn't it shifted to the party of Trump officially?
Which then isn't. And how did that happen so quickly? Well, I think there was just so much hate and so much of anger and things out there, and he just channeled right into all of them.
I mean, I think it's about consolidation of power for the people on the inside. I mean, forget the people who voted for him, but the Marjorie Taylor Greene and all those people, they're laying in wait for 2022.
Val Demings may take on Marco Rubio. That would be fantastic.
Who's Val Dennings, and do they have a
Val
chance?
Demings?
Val Demings? Who's that even?
Are you serious?
Any relation to Val Dennings?
No. She's actually
of course,
excellent.
Mary, of course I know, but our audience
No, you don't. Tell me what you know, and I'll fill in any spots.
Oh, come on. She's the Val. She's the, she's she's possibly going to challenge Marco Rubio.
Could she possibly be one of the women who were up for consideration for vice president?
See, there you go.
Was she in law enforcement for years?
Sure, for years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See? It's coming a little clearer now, right, folks? Right? Mm-hmm. Picture's coming a little clearer now.
She's very intelligent. She knows her stuff.
Oh, that one. Gotcha.
Yes.